we're going to start off, with just talking about how you are leveraging AI for a use case within your companies that has been rolled out at a global scale where you can see a meaningful impact both in terms of customer experience, and then we are going to get into what you plan to do going forward. So maybe Simon, we can start off with you in terms of a particular use case that you have rolled out within your company and how it's helped improve the customer experience.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So at Société Générale, we have a use case on the trading floor, on the trading side. As you may know, a client sends us requests through Bloomberg chats, for instance. Many of these chats need a product price. So it's a request for quote. And historically, this has been done manually. You have to understand the message and say, okay, the client wants a call option on S&P, strike 1%, 100%, etc. So we've done some NLP, natural language processing, on these chats to extract the client request. So that's kind of the first step. Then we auto price that request and answer back to the client. There could be a negotiation. And if you think about it, our AI is kind of a trader assistant. It's a job that would historically be done by more like a junior trader. This is now fairly automated. And the trader comes to validate the trade when there's an agreement between the bot, if you want, and the client. So that's in production on several desks. It's a big efficiency gain, and it generates a good amount of flow for us.
Great, thank you. Bridget, let me come next to you. I mean, we've seen how much AI has played a role in terms of the vaccine development and just what it has done around the COVID time. So maybe you can talk about, a particular use case, whether it's related to vaccines or just healthcare in general, that you have seen where AI has played a big role.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate the question, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to everyone today. Yeah, as you said, AI is helping us with the overall customer experience, and for us it means patients and clinicians. And our best example is with COVID, with the pandemic. AI was widely used in helping companies like Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, to help develop the vaccines, and with unprecedented speed to help us develop, test, and deploy the vaccines. And now, based on that, AI is now a core competency for drug development, for de-risking and accelerating clinical trials. It's helping us provide precise diagnosis, as well as identifying epidemic trends. So the pandemic actually showed us how AI has been able to do things in, frankly, record time that we haven't done before. And what's interesting here is, we look at AI not only for the great value it had in helping us with vaccines for the pandemic, but for overall healthcare, it's helping us rethink patient engagement. And we look at patient engagement as sort of the last mile problem of healthcare. It's sort of the final barrier between, an ineffective outcome or a good health outcome. So that for the healthcare industry, patient engagement is the focus, and AI is helping us leverage that.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to the patient engagement part, but maybe before that, Xingchu, I want to pivot to you. I mean, look, retail sales probably took, a complete turn during COVID times with online shift and all that. And so I'm curious in terms of how you guys have leveraged AI to really change that customer experience.
Absolutely, Mandeep. One of the key applications is really about the customers and really focus on the customer value. Well, for Macy's, one of our key strategies is to empower our customers to own your style. So our job is to really help our customers and connecting the shoppers with the advice, inspiration, the great value, and the great products. This is where the AI plays such a pivotal role to connecting the data together, having a deep understanding of who customers are, and also connecting with the customers at the individual level. It also touches from end to end, meaning starting from engaging with the customers through the marketing, and then going through the online shopping experience, the delivery, the services, the full package as well. So we see tremendous impact, but also this is just the starting of the journey. There's so much work we need to do to really help our customers and drive business value.
Got it. Thank you. And finally, Sammy, maybe you can talk about, just how AI has changed that banking experience, whether it's on the consumer side or anything else that you guys are doing internally.
Thank you. So for us, as a bank, we have a great strategy and very much focused on delivering exceptional customer experience, and AI machine learning has been really driving that. To give you some examples, our mobile app, which is really ranked top in industry benchmarking groups, uses AI and machine learning to drive insights, personalization, information that helps customers to really gain valuable next steps. And another application is around contacts, high-touch contacts, providing customers the opportunity to book meetings and also co-browsing opportunities with bankers. The other extreme of helping customers provide goals, set goals, and also provide the opportunity to guide them to achieve their goals. So these are some of the examples. We're using AI and machine learning to personalize, to deliver value, and really make sure the experiences are frictionless.
Got it. And so, Bridget, I want to come back to you. You mentioned about, driving engagement for patients. I mean, my understanding is whenever you are dealing with patient information, it's very sensitive, and, privacy is at the forefront of it. So how have you thought about implementing AI in a responsible way? Because a lot of these algorithms do require a lot of training. And, you have to capture data. Yes, you can aggregate it, but curious to know your thoughts around just pursuing AI in a responsible way.
Yeah, that's a very important question. And at Kaiser Permanente, let me start by, we believe in sort of three basic foundational tenets for AI. First is we look at AI as augmenting the practitioners and enhancing decision-making. It doesn't replace the person. Secondly, the data and the insights generated by AI belong to their creator. So a patient owns their own data and the insights that are generated. And then third, AI models and algorithms need to be transparent and explainable. We need to actively and intentionally look for and remove bias. So as all of us that have used AI, we know that, particularly in healthcare, it's only as good as the patient data that's collected. So we have to be, the information has to be accurate, and we have to have precision management of the patient data. And as I said, that is, the patient's data is private. When we now stepping back, when we look at, as you said, these models need to be trained, and so you need very large and rich data sources that are, in the case of, depending on the use case, if you will, if it's drug discovery, if it's triaging symptoms, we basically look at anonymizing the data and making sure that there's no privacy issue, that we've been completely compliant with the individual patient data privacy. So I think, for all of us that look at, getting accurate outcomes, having multiple data sources that are anonymized, and that when we look at our models, we are going back to verify that the outcomes that we were looking for are in fact, coming through, that some odd algorithm didn't happen. So just because you have the data set and the knowledge base that's trained, that doesn't mean you just leave it there. You've got to go back and check it and verify. And as I said, very intentionally remove bias and inaccuracy. So we look at AI models as really, it's an ongoing activity. This isn't something that's one and done. We're constantly feeding the models and refreshing data sources and intentionally looking for any kind of bias or inaccuracy.
And just to piggyback on that comment, like, do you have to work with the regulators in terms of making sure they know what you are doing in terms of these algorithms, or is it more like self-imposed in terms of, you mentioned about removing biases and all that?
It's really all of the above, right? We have, at Kaiser Permanente, we have a very rigorous and ongoing and active basically audit, right, that we go through and ensure that we're compliant and that we're up to date with the most recent and latest changes as policy and compliance rules and regulations, so that we are making sure that we are in compliance and following all the guidance. So that's something that we do very rigorously all the time internally. But then as well, right, you as a regulated industry, it's something that there's independent and outside regulators that come in and verify. So it's a combination, right? And when it comes down to, for example, in my teams, these are the kinds of things that we have disciplines in place. Again, that we follow ourselves, but we don't just stop there. We have independent internal audit. As well as regulators.
Got it. I don't know, Sammy, if you want to add anything there in terms of the compliance aspect of it and what all you need to do to really roll out AI type of products and functionality into your day-to-day products.
Sure, definitely. Like Bridget said, it's really important for us. At the end of the day, we're a bank. People trust us. They come to us with their valuables. So we have extreme focus on privacy, security, and all aspects of responsible AI practices. So we're building frameworks, and we're establishing them, enacting the mechanisms by which we can deploy AI at scale. And I used to be in the healthcare sector before I moved to finance, so I know some of the parallels, and it's really it's no different in financial services, I would say. And we work with regulators, internal auditors, internal different lines of defense. We call them different risk functions, to make sure whatever we're building is responsible, is ethical, is fair, is not biased. So the two levels, I think, one is the principles level, like everyone has to agree to some core set of principles, but that's probably the easiest part. How do you get to implementing them? Make sure those principles are making sense, and you have a way of adhering to them. I think that's really the critical part, and we have mechanisms to achieve that.
Okay, well, let me pivot to infrastructure, because we keep talking about, AI, algorithms and how much data they need. So maybe, Simon, that's a good point for you to just kind of express what all things you have to do in terms of enabling this AI from an infrastructure perspective, given some of these require a lot of, big upfront investment, sometimes big CapEx dollars as well. So curious, just know your thoughts in terms of the infrastructure side of driving this.
Yeah, sure. AI requires two things, data and compute capacity. We historically had our data lake on-premise, and we decided 2 years ago, I think now, to migrate it to public cloud. So we've now completed that project, and we migrated our data lake storage, from on-premise to a cloud-managed data storage on Microsoft Azure. So this is a pretty large project. This means our entire wholesale banking data lake is now on public cloud, and that's important because that enables us to achieve decoupling between storage and compute. It's something that's fairly difficult to do on-premise. It means that we can have kind of an unlimited amount of compute available on any kind of set of data sets. So that really helps storing, because data science is not that much about the model. It's really having the data well structured, well stored, and available to the data scientist. And public cloud really helps making the data available. So in practice, we use Azure Data Lake Storage for the storage. We use the Hadoop stack from HD Insight to run our algos. We also use Azure ML Workspace to track our experiments, be able to reproduce, and as others were talking, having a proper model risk management is greatly helped by this cloud stack. And we recently started to use Snowflake, in particular Snowflake Data Marketplace, to get vendor data feeds into our series of data sets. So compared to 2-3 years ago, there's been a great change by taking that journey to public cloud.
Yeah, and I'm curious, being a bank, how can, or just in terms of the pace of deployment on public cloud, how did this come about so quickly? Like, what facilitated this quick move to public cloud?
I wouldn't say it was quick. We started 5 years ago, our compute moved to cloud. So for instance, our risk engine, so I think 2015, or 7 years ago now, we started the migration. So I wish I could say it was quick. It was not quick. It's been a 5-7 years of long process. And we're still ongoing. Like, we are migrating dozens of apps, but it's going to take 5 or 10 more years, I think, when to complete that migration. So we had to inform our regulators in various regions, Asia, Europe, US, about what we were doing. So it's a challenging and long process.
Got it. Xingchu, I want to come back because retail is such a big use case for AI. And, when we talk about engagement and how customers like to make their purchases, whether it's e-commerce or in-store, there is that element about user behavior that you can learn through AI. So curious, from your perspective, how do you strike that balance between one, leveraging AI to drive engagement, but also not kind of going beyond the privacy rules and, just the things that we were discussing earlier with Bridget and Sammy?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, we are very much customer-centric organization focusing on driving the value, but at the same time, very much respect the data privacy. So the way I think about the data privacy, there's 3 aspects of that. One is about the culture. The second is about the organization, team enforcing it. The third is about the implementation process. So at Macy's, we have the Chief Information and Security Officer as a leading role to govern the data privacy. We also have data governance team to enforce and through the protocols and implementation. That's how we find that balance. But at the same time, happier customers equals to greater business opportunities. That's how we are treating the whole opportunities and challenges.
Got it. So, when people talk about metaverse or, some of the newer things, how do you guys go about either doing due diligence around what is practical versus what is too futuristic? Just any thoughts around how are you thinking about constantly enhancing that user experience, which you just alluded to?
I'll just couple quick thoughts. First of all, the metaverse is a virtual environment really built upon data. And given the nature of AI is such a deeply rooted in the data, it's really providing a phenomenal virtual world for the AI. So I would think about AI as a Superman version in the metaverse, right? And a lot of constraints will be removed. At the same time, for the business and the customer experience, we need to really imagine all of those all together. So at the same time, to your point about the privacy and really be responsible AI, the way I think about it is it's great to have, like the Neo in a matrix, helping others and fighting the evils. But at the same time, we want to avoid the self-duplicating agents myth to destroy it as well.
Got it. So will we have a Macy's in a virtual mall anytime soon?
This is something we definitely need to look into it very closely, because there's so much potential we can tap into. But at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, we really need to reimagine all the existing constraints and really realize the full potential of that.
Got it. So Bridget, I mean, talking about customer service, everyone knows, healthcare use cases are enormous when it comes to both on the drug discovery side as well as the patient experience. And so curious to hear from you in terms of the things that you see will be practical in the future because of the advances that we have made in AI.
Well, so I just want to echo in terms of the Macy's model, right? When we think about a more immersive experience for a patient, this is where, we get very excited. I mean, today's healthcare systems have generally been about adherence to a plan or compliance, which is very transactional. The challenge is, how do we move that into a better engagement, better experience? Like, for example, if I have asthma and I know I need to see a doctor every 6 months, okay, but what does my environment look like? What foods should I avoid? How can I live better, knowing more about my condition? And that's what AI is migrating us to. When we're more aware of our health, we can turn that into essentially a better experience. So when we look at what's possible, with this greater focus on personalized care, and frankly, other industries have offered and in recommendations on, if you like this kind of shirt, well, you might want, like these pants, right? These other industries like retail have taught us a lot, and it's raised the expectations in healthcare. And so when we think about the future of healthcare with AI, today we have our smartwatches, our mobile phones that help us track steps, check our heart rate, prompt us to stand up if we're sitting too long. And in the future, we see that households will have more than 50 connected devices on average that'll help monitor health status. And they essentially will put more control with the consumer than we've ever had before. And with the implications of that is that not only yourself as an individual, but your family, your circle of care, for a patient will now be completely digitally enabled with insights, and will essentially help to optimize treatment plans as well as support. And then from the physician standpoint, where anybody that goes in for a checkup or something, the physician is taking notes, manually, even if it's on a computer, or you will be asked to fill out a repetitive survey about updating your health condition. And in the future, AI will enable a much more personalized experience. We'll know that you have asthma, and we'll know, the conditions that you're in and how that maybe has affected you, and can essentially help with much more personalized recommendations on diet and exercise and that kind of thing. And as we extrapolate even more so, not so much like the Matrix, right? But we'll be able to create, each of us will have a digital health twin, right, that we will build together with the data that pertains to us. We have direct access to our medical records. We'll have, implications of what things might mean if we do this or we do that we record, or that gets recorded for us. And ultimately, we envision AI will help the patient have much more control, much more transparency, and be continually able to, update their health plan and help them achieve their wellness goals.
So how far out is the digital twin?
The digital twin, well, it's as we talk about, right? It never happens as fast as you want, but it's all pieces are coming together, right? As you know, right, with any emerging sort of next era of capability, it starts a bit fragmented. So we're getting data from these different devices that we now commonly use today. where the electronic health records are getting more and more automated, and all of that data, when we leverage AI, right, is being analyzed and understood for better insights. So it's coming. And that really is the exciting part about the healthcare industry, is that there's a lot of opportunity here to make this, to accelerate the better engagement and better experience.
Got it. Sammy, I want to touch on a very important topic with you around talent. So when you think about, just bringing people on board who can design these latest AI applications for the kind of things you want to do on the customer service side or AI agents, like where do you find this talent, or are you facing a talent shortage right now?
Great question. So I think talent, specifically in the field of AI machine learning, is scarce. Traditionally in financial services, the competition, the talent pool was, who the competitors are. But now in AI machine learning, everyone needs that talent. So I think there's a great deal of shortage. So we have we're building strong partnership with universities in their PhD, postdoc programs from the master's level up to attract and retain talent. But also, making sure once we have them, we give them the right tools and technologies to do their jobs right. I think that's one of the key things to keep in mind, is once you have highly qualified, highly skilled AI researchers on board, we have to make sure they spend most of their time doing the actual research, so making sure we remove friction. And that, in a way, is really at the heart of our, using AI to empower our employee, enhance our employee experiences. The whole agenda around goes around that. How do we make sure we use AI to enable our employees to help more customers? So the other angle is exactly helping existing employees. But also attracting, retaining is a key part of our AI strategy.
Got it. Xingchu, when I look at Macy's, obviously, global business, and it's got so many different parts that can benefit from AI. So what, according to you, whether it's a supply chain or just a customer experience or anything else, will have the most benefit from the advances that we have made in AI over the next 5 to 10 years?
So talking about that, the view I have is really thinking about the whole customer journey. That's how we think about starting from the early engagement of, through marketing and early reach out, all the way to the end supply chain and services. But in between, there is the omni-channel shopping experience that will empower our customers. At the end, we need to offer our customer the inspiration, the great value, and great products. That's where the AI is playing such a pivotal role across all the stages. For us, as we're thinking about the next 5 years, the trend is really about at the connection with individual customer at the one-on-one level. This is where the AI plays such a critical piece, because it's the strength of the depth, the scale, and the speed. That's why it's really empower all the intelligence and make it a possibility.
Got it. Simon, I have the same question for you. What is that one trend that you are working towards at Societe Generale, and how long do you think it's going to take there in terms of just the ROI and the impact you see it can have?
Yeah, I see two that are related, and we talked about data privacy. We have the same approach where currently we manually review every project, and as the number of model grows, this is becoming something we need to further automate. So we are investing on differential privacy technology. So differential privacy is kind of adding random noise when your sample size becomes too small, so that you cannot technically get to know what Simon income is, because it's randomized when it gets too small. So all this investment about the tooling to facilitate respecting privacy is really critical to make us more efficient. So there's there's a strong focus on that to make the teams more efficient. And related to that, it's the fact that every player in the industry store its own data sets, and this is overall very inefficient. We talk about metaverse. Metaverse is based on blockchain. To me, blockchain is, or DLTs are really revolutionary to avoid stopping having data replication everywhere. So we're also investing in working on DLT ledgers that will be shared amongst market participants. And to me, this is a revolutionary for the operational efficiency of our industry, financial industry, but also in the way the industry will be kind of reshaped. So privacy and blockchain storage of data are the two key points that we're working on.
Got it. And since we have 3 minutes left, Bridget, I'll ask you the final question, and the others can chime in as well. Any final takeaways in terms of your view of AI and what to look out for over the next few years in your space?
Well, I think, like many industries, AI is reinventing healthcare as we know it today. And at Kaiser Permanente, we're leveraging AI and other advanced technology together to help our members navigate the right care anywhere that they may be, anytime that they want it, and have it personalized with treatments, convenient access, easier payment and claim processes, for an overall much more seamless and satisfying patient engagement. So we're very excited about the opportunity, and we're working every day to help our patients receive better care, better access, and overall better experience.
Got it. Xingchu?
I would say to our business audience specifically, thinking about AI has the exponential impact on the business, both the top line and bottom line. Also, it's relatively low cost to scale it up. But at the same time, we're thinking about AI is capable of making immediate impact. Also, it is a journey. So it does require the vision, the long-term strategy, and a robust plan to execute upon. And last but not least, building the AI solution is only the step one, because the business implementation and the integration is critical to its success as well.
Got it. Sammy?
Definitely. I think AI and machine learning are powerful technologies. And for us, my last thought is we have to make sure the customers are first, build things in a customer-centric way. And with powerful technologies, there is a risk as well. So make sure we're aware of the risks and manage them effectively in a responsible way.
Got it. And finally, Simon.
I would say that, as I said, AI is a journey, and the model is only a small piece. I was surprised to see how important was the data engineering piece. I think we should not forget that the key part is the software engineering, the data engineering, the data storage, and this is what, in my opinion, makes a difference between a project that stays at a pilot phase or a project that becomes a production and used in practice. It's really the data engineering and the software engineering. The model somehow is not the most difficult.
Got it. I want to thank you all for a wonderful panel discussion. This has been great. I really enjoyed listening to all of your views. And look, I mean, there is a lot that will change. Predictions never come kind of fully, they pan out the way you expect them to. But at the same time, I think this leaves our audience with a good kind of framework in terms of what to expect and things that they can research on their own. So with that, we'll wrap up. Thank you all, and everyone have a great day.